title is The Lunar Project. And for the Lunar Project, this show features the music of the Planet Suite from Gustav Holst. It features the main theme from Apollo 13, written by James Horner, and also Sprach Zarathustra, which is a piece written by Richard Strauss. You might notice it from 2001: A Space Odyssey at the end of the program. We're not going to perform that for you tonight, but you'll hear that later on in the season. So even though we are doing the music of the planets, our show actually follows a very consistent theme chronologically. So we're telling the story of the space race between the United States of America and the Soviet Union. So especially in our opening production, the opening production is the music of Mars, and we are telling the story of Sputnik, or Sputnik as you might know it, the Russian satellite that was launched into orbit in 1953. And we'll go through some narration. We've used some CBS broadcasts, we've used some of our own narration. And then that takes us through to the back half of the show, which I will let Scott explain a little bit more about when we get into America.
Yeah, so just as Mr. B said, ahead of the United States in terms of the space program, in terms of what we all know, right? But eventually, after they launched Sputnik, it's kind of a wake-up call, right, for the United States. Our ballad, which is the beginning of our Jupiter, we're calling it Jupiter 1, it's kind of the more ballad feature of Jupiter. You're going to hear some quotes from John F. Kennedy at a speech that he gave, a very famous speech at Rice University, where he's talking about how in this decade we're going to come up, we might be behind right now, but we're going to move ahead. We're going to put somebody on the moon. We're going to win the space race. From the ballad on into the closer, it's going to be kind of about the United States improving the space program, and eventually, as we all know, landing on the moon, which is going to be our end production. Our whole finale is going to be basically a big triumphant closing to the United States landing on the moon. So it's kind of the whole story throughout the 1950s and 60s of the space race. What we did here at band camp was Mars, our opening production. One of the things that makes Mars really challenging is that it's written mainly in 5/4, which is a difficult meter for students to perform. So many of their sets are going to be 5 or 10 count sets when they usually are 4 or 8. So that might be a little bit of a complicated way of saying it, but this is really difficult stuff that the students are doing. So we're very happy with how far they were able to get. We're going to take this visually all the way up until the beginning of the drum feature. That's how much we learned here over the last 2 weeks, and then they're going to play musically the entire rest of Mars. Fantastic. So here we go. Let's see how we do.
CBS Television presents a special report on Sputnik 1, the Soviet space satellite. Douglas Edwards reporting.
Good evening. As we've been reporting for some time, the Russians have been diverting significant resources to the quest for space exploration. And so the question remains, who will be first in the race for space? These United States of America or the Soviet Union? Successfully launched Sputnik.
do this. Musicians, winds, can we set up in concert arcs right here as though we were in the band room right on the 50-yard line? And then drums, can you set up in formation behind them? Color Garden dancers are going to come off to the side. We're going to do our standstill run through of the opener and of the ballad. So front ensemble will also prepare for that. So in addition to all of the drill that we learn with the opener, like Scott said, that is very, very, very tough stuff with the 5-count sets. You notice them making the Sputnik set actually on the field where Scott wrote the drill to actually make it look like Sputnik has landed into orbit. So what we're going to do now is the winds are going to grab their stands, and we are going to perform for you. The opener is standing still, and we're also going to perform our ballad from the show. And that'll give you a chance to hear all the great work that we've been doing musically during band camp, and then hopefully, with more work and rehearsals during the season, more of a sense of what the show will sound like once we have more time in rehearsals and once we perfect all of our choreography and our routines. So all the winds in the battery are getting set up. Scott and I are going to talk to you about 3 things that we actually really need help with this season. There's 3 projects that we've taken on, and if there's anyone in the audience tonight, or if there's anyone watching on Periscope at home, 3 different projects that if you are skilled in this area of expertise, we would love for you to be able to help us out, to help us get all the way through the season. Our first problem, Chris, can you take out the bar for the railing right here? Yeah, do you see how that railing is a little bit bent? We've ordered some replacement parts for our front podium, but we're actually in need of someone, if anyone knows how to weld, we need some expertise in that area. Some of the tubes for the podium are a little bit unstable. So if anyone knows of anyone who has the ability to use a blowtorch, to weld, we could really use your help in that area. We know exactly what needs to happen, so if you're able to do that, if you could come and talk to me or send me an email, my email is available on the website after our performance this evening. The second thing that we would like to do, can I have one of the dancers bring... Oh, he's got it, perfect. Look at that. So what we are planning on using for the dancers in our opening production of Mars, all of the dancers right now have poles that they've been using, but what we'd really like to do is to create a prop that makes more sense with our show. So we'd like to create, since we're doing the Lunar project and since the whole opening production is about building, the Soviet Union building Sputnik, what we'd like to do is actually create hardware, tools for them to spin. So we'd like to create hammers, if you will, using PVC and using wood. So if anyone here is very handy, can help make a prototype for us, that would be great. We have a budget for it. We just need volunteers then to be able to put all the props together. So that way in the entire first production, you'll see the dancers doing their choreography using their hammer prop as they help build Sputnik in the opening production. The last thing that we need help with, and probably the most important thing, Scott has been absolutely incredible in helping with the design of this program, and he's going to tell you about what he has planned for our ballad visually, and a really cool idea that we do need some help with.
Alright, so after the Mars production is over, we're going to transition to kind of the United States, realizing, oh man, we got to get our act together because the Soviets are launching things into space. So we're going to have a bunch of Kennedy quotes in there from that Rice speech that I was talking about earlier. And in that speech, there's a lot of great like one-liners, two-liners in there about reaching to the stars, reaching to the moon. So what we're going to do on the field visually during the ballad is we're actually going to create some constellations. So the students are going to come together into like a tight little group, and they're going to open up into these different constellations, recognizable ones. But in order to really sell that idea, what we decided to do, or we're going to attempt to do, hopefully, is we've all seen these before, these like belts. They're actually called stanchions. We learned a new word while designing the show. This is called a stanchion. It's a retractable belt. What we'd like to do is to be able to take just the top part of this off. This one doesn't do that, but we'd like to do that. And we'd like to attach the retractor on one side of the students with the belts, and on the other side is going to be a connector. So when the students will come together at that point and then open up as the constellations, okay, too far. All right, look, it'll all be connected, okay, so you'll be able to actually see the connected constellations. The belt will be white so that you'll be able to see it more clearly from the stands. And then as the students move throughout the drill and that ballad production, it will expand and retract as needed. There will be a set at the very end, kind of at the big hit in the ballad, where they're all standing in a really, really big arc, so it's going to look kind of like the crest of the planet. We'll also have the moon on there too. So the idea is to have all of these connected. So really what we're looking... You can do it. Okay, there we go. Really what we want to do is we want to try to create this if possible. The very top part of this, the retractable belt. We've looked at the pricing for all that. We're just trying to find something that is going to be appropriate for the budget and everything. But we have money set aside to build these, but we're just going to need some design and engineering expertise to create a prototype and then kind of mass produce it for like 70 students. So that's the task that we're also looking for some help with. So if this is a project that you'd be interested in looking at, we can go ahead and rent one of these. We actually rented this one to show you guys today. We can take it apart and see what the inside looks like to see if we can replicate it using our own materials. So that's kind of one of our ideas, and I think that's going to be a really big part of our ballad that will make it kind of stick out with the other groups that they might see at the competitions.
So as you're listening to our ballad in our standstill production, see if you can visualize constellations on the field and then that big crescent arc of the Earth and of the Moon as you hear the material from Jupiter. All right, it looks like the winds are set up. Without any further ado, this is a full run-through of the opener and all the way through the ballad with everyone in with the metronome.
CBS Television presents a special report on Sputnik 1, the Soviet space satellite. Douglas Edwards reporting.
Good evening. As we've been reporting for some time, the Russians have been diverting significant resources to the quest for space exploration. And so the question remains, who will be first in the race for space? These United States of America or the Soviet Union?
do not intend to stay behind, and in this decade we shall make up and move ahead. For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon, and to the planets beyond.
And there you have it, the 2016 Burlington High School Marching Red Devils, everyone. How about another hand? Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you see you around at a performance, at a football game. Have a safe and pleasant drive home. Thank you so much. Good night.